Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to you all today. Before we get started, I would like to make an acknowledgement to country. I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the respective lands in which we're meeting today and pay my respects to elders past and present. So again, a very warm welcome. My name is Lavanya, and I am an insights design researcher and experience design consultant at Principles. And I'm here to speak with you today about how we can make brands a force for positive change, especially in the times we live in today. Thought I'd start off by just giving you my opinion on what positive change means to me personally. So positive change to me is about having a positive impact on somebody or something in any way, shape, or form. So just quickly, what we'll leave you with today is a deeper understanding of how you can draw on culture, context, and empathy to really understand the people you're designing for in your startup. Just identifying the key questions you need to ask as you go through this process and defining the elements to build not just a better brand, but a better business that becomes a force for positive change. In short, how to build a startup brand that thrives. So why are we talking about positive change here today? So just to give you context, so our purpose for the company that I work with at Principles, it is to make brands a force for positive change. And it's central to what Principles is all about. For the past 25 years, we've been helping brands create a positive impact for the people that they design for, and for the community that they live in. When we talk about brands, though, what is a brand? Because there are very different definitions in our head, depending on the experiences that we've had. But here's how we define it. A brand is a problem solver, so it needs to solve some problem of some sort. It addresses real human needs, motivations, and pain points, and figures out a way to meet them. It's a change agent, so we're looking to create some sort of a change for an individual, a community, or the world at large. And it is a long-term growth driver because really strong brands become a key driver for business growth. So really, it's much more than a logo. Your brand is the most powerful lever that can drive your business strategy and culture. Strong brands have a really simple but effective structure. So how we like to speak about it here at Principles is that we have the brand strategy element here, which essentially captures the positive qualities of our spirit of how we were founded as a company, right? So for the purposes of this presentation, I'm going to be focusing on this aspect of the structure that we have here. So I'm going to talk you through what is the business context that we operate in, our emotional reason for being, which is our purpose or our belief, which together make up the why, right? Why do we do what we do? And then I'm going to talk to you about the customer value proposition. So what is it that we're offering to our customers that is quite distinctive and that meets a key human need? That is the what, how we do it. So what are the brand traits? What are the ways in which we express ourselves in terms of our personality and our tone of voice and what they see? All of that together makes up the organizing brand idea. And then that comes to life in the form of a visual identity system, tone of voice, and the culture and the experience. That's the mantra that employees in the organization live by, and that's what motivates them every single day to come into work. And that eventually becomes our signature brand experience, which differentiates us from our competition. So just talking about context here. Sorry, excuse me, just for a second. So when we talk about context, we're essentially talking about the cultural context in which our brand operates. So we're really looking to solve a cultural tension or a problem that your brand can resolve. So what is the world that you're operating in, and how do you fit in? What is your purpose or your emotional reason for being? So really asking yourself, what is the underlying why? So why does your startup exist beyond just making money? Why do you do what you do? Because we know that employees are 3 times more engaged when they know that they're making a positive impact through their work. You must be familiar with Simon Sinek, the famous motivational speaker who talks a lot about people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Since we're on the topic of Simon Sinek, this is an exercise that we found quite helpful in just helping unlock what that purpose is for your organization. So it really helps in understanding what is that motivation and differentiating the motivational why versus the operational delivery, the what and the how. So if you ask Nike how they would do this exercise, they'd say the what, the why, and the how, right? So the what is that we make active apparel, footwear, accessories, and equipment. How do they do that? It's innovative, high-tech design and high-performance breakthroughs. Why do they do that? To bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. There's an asterisk in athlete, as you'll see over there, because for Nike, anybody with a body is an athlete. So this is a particularly interesting exercise and a good one to do. It looks deceptively simple, but it might be quite challenging. But what's really important is just going through that introspective purpose process to understand what really motivates you as an organization. Sometimes you might struggle with this kind of thing because it's quite confronting when you think about, oh, what gets me up in the morning and why do I do what I do? So another exercise that we find particularly helpful is understanding where your cultural energies lie. So this was based on a piece of research by a Harvard academic, Nick Morkogiannis, did a terrific piece of work, which reveals that for most groups, organizations, or companies, what really creates a sense of shared identity is one common energy, and that's what they're motivated by. So there are really 4 different types of energies. So there are the groups who get their drive from the energy of discovery. So this appeals to the adventurer in them. So, the drive comes from discovering things. So it could be a learning organization, it could be a university, it could be IBM, because for them, their philosophy is that if it can be imagined, it can be created. The second type of driver is heroism. So it's the energy that comes from overcoming obstacles. It's about appealing to the winner in us. It's fighting for a cause. So think about your not-for-profits who are focused on a particular issue. Even think about FedEx, because these are companies who are all about overcoming challenges of some sort. The third one is the energy of excellence. Now, this represents the gold standard, the elite. So it appeals to the perfectionist in us, the best of the best. Think about Mercedes, because they're all about excellence and being the best in their field. And then finally, you have altruism. So that's the energy of service, of caring, of contribution to a higher purpose. So you might have Patagonia, brands like that, where really it's appealing to the carer in people, and that's what motivates them as an organization. So it's really helpful to go through this exercise as you're thinking about the why and why you do what you do. And finally, the most important, empathy. I can't reiterate this enough, but it's really being able to understand the people that you're designing for and where they come from. So to us, what empathy means is being able to see the world as others do. So being able to put our own stuff aside and see the situation through their eyes. Being non-judgmental. So really trying to understand the person's situation without judging them based on our own experiences. Understanding another person's feelings, really putting our stuff aside, focusing on them, and communicating to them, as Brené Brown would say, rather than saying, at least you have this, or it could be worse, you at least have this. We might say something like, it sounds like you're in a hard place right now. Tell me more about it. So by having conversations with the people that we're designing for, we can get a better understanding of where they're coming from and be truly empathetic. Because empathy really begins with self-awareness. In empathic listening, you listen with your ears, and most importantly, you listen with your eyes and your heart. Just quickly to flag there, if there are any questions, I'll be addressing them towards the very end of the presentation. So just please keep them coming as we go. And I'll keep moving on. So because we're here to talk about positive change today, what does it really mean to your organization? So that is a really good thing to think about, because for some people, it might be having a tangible impact on the society. For some people, depending on what the offering is, it might be empowering people in achieving their goal. It's about supporting individual health and well-being. It's giving back in some way, shape, or form. So really asking yourself, what does positive change mean to me and the people who work with me? We know this is important for the community at large because in a recent study done by Carolyn Butler Madden in her book Path to Purpose, she talks about how 72% of people say that business is failing to take care of the planet and the society. So that's the environmental construct. And you have 81% of people who expect more from their purchase than just the pure acquisition of products and services. So they're really looking for something more. You have 71% of people who say they're willing to pay more for a socially and environmentally responsible product. So we know that this is really important for people. So just keeping that in mind, thought it would be good to share some examples of some startups and how, what positive change means to them and how they define it. So Project Rocket was founded by two sisters, Lucy and Rosie Thomas, 12 years ago. And for them, positive change is all about empowering young people to stand up against bullying and hatred. So the way that this comes to life is that they run a number of workshops for school students and college students so that they can feel that sense of inclusion and be able to speak up if they experience bullying of any sort. You have an energy-focused startup, Brighte, which helps bring affordable energy to Australians, solar, battery, and home improvements. And that's the positive change that they want to have in the community. You have MyCare Space, which is essentially an online platform that helps people with a disability and their families find the services and the support they need and information about the NDIS, because that was the gap that they noticed in the market, that this did not exist. And finally, you have Umbo, who makes it easier for people in regional areas to see a speech or an occupational therapist, because they identified that specifically people in regional Australia who do not have access to allied health professionals really struggle. So they came up with this online platform that helps them have telehealth conversations quite seamlessly. And that's what it meant for them. Like this, we want to get people access to allied health professionals, and that's what positive change meant for them. So I'm saying all these things, but how do we get started? Because it's really interesting to see what was behind the process that these startups went through. So what we particularly find helpful at Principles is having a really good framework. A really good framework helps structure your startup's brand story and provides a thematic structure to ensure that alignment. So I will go through these in detail when I talk about the real life case studies, but essentially it's about understanding the socio-economic context that you operate in and the need that you want to respond to. Your purpose, so what's the motivating why that unites you, which we spoke about, that attracts people to work for your organization and that inspires people to embrace change? What's the customer promise? So what's our commitment to customers that underpins that valued relationship that they don't get anywhere else? And finally, I believe I am seeing and that's back now, that's all good. And the values, so what we believe in and what we stand for, the personality traits that define how we express ourselves, and finally, the brand idea. So what is our creative North Star that inspires brand expression and innovation? And I'll talk about each of these in a bit. So what does positive change mean for us here at Principles? Just to give you a take as to how we approach it. So in our case, our context is that we understand that brands have to meet real human needs and be crystal clear about how they deliver value. Branding makes it easier for people to engage and identify with organizations. So it's really important for us to inspire organizations to align their people around a common purpose. So our purpose then becomes to make brands a force for positive change. Our promise is that we'll put your brand to work to build a seriously better business. Our values are thoughtfully tailored, meaning it's tailored for each individual client and their context. It's actively engaging, meaning we really involve our clients in co-creation workshops so that we're working together to develop something that they're proud about. It's creatively challenging because we push the boundaries and get people out of their comfort zone. And for us, it really needs to have a commercial impact and make a real world difference in the market. The personality and how we express ourselves and what unites the people who work for at Principles is the fact that we're brave, we're unafraid to give our opinion, we're insightful, we have a point of view, and we're very on your side. The brand idea being seriously imaginative. And these are just visuals in terms of how it came to life in terms of the collateral and the things that people see. So this is how we define positive change for Principles and what it means for us as we deliver work to our clients, right? But when you take the example of clients that we've worked with, starting off with Beyond Blue. So over the past 20 years, Beyond Blue has come a really long way, where they worked really hard to reduce that stigma of having these open conversations about mental health, which didn't take place back then. What they really wanted to do is actually get more immersed into people's lives so that they can sort of take better care of their mental health every single day at work, at school. So how we define the socio-economic context for Beyond Blue is that now we are more sophisticated in having a high-profile conversation about mental health. It's really, we have seen the benefits of, the importance of mental health and how it works better for people and how it creates a more productive Australian economy and really gives us the chance to achieve our national potential. So really the challenge was, while people know and love Beyond Blue, they really didn't know the services that they offer. So to really help improve Australians' mental health, we needed to broaden people's understanding of Beyond Blue, beyond just the platform, and breaking through people's busy lives to change their behaviors. So the key question we asked was, how can our brand help reposition the organization as the go-to resource to help people manage their mental health to lead a better life? So what we did is conduct co-creation workshops with the executive team at Beyond Blue. And these included Blue Voices, right? So it was a community engagement panel who are a part of the general public. And this yielded really interesting insights onto the role that the organization can play in people's lives today and into the future. So this really helped in repositioning Beyond Blue from a vocal advocate on anxiety and depression to a really practical, handy resource that provides the tools and support Australians need to achieve the best possible mental health. This really took the form of an easy to navigate practical resource for the digital age. So this brand proposition is what we developed in partnership with the client. So Beyond Blue really being still who you know and trust, but what we're going to do is support you with this resource and the tools that you need in order to provide support, whether you're at work, whether you're at home, or whether you're studying, and that would empower you to better achieve your best mental health. How this came to life for people was in the form of online resources, whether that's phone support and web chat, mentoring and support programs, and a 24/7 access if they needed to speak with somebody, depending on their personal situation. And the traits in the personality traits and how it came to life internally was the fact that they defined it as bold. So we are extremely talented and driven. We lead by example because we want to spread the spirit of positivity. We are optimistic and we believe in a brighter future. This ultimately also informed the brand idea of looking at blue skies, which I'll talk to you a little bit more about. We're approachable. Don't be afraid to speak with us. You know that we have your back, and it's practical. So it's practical tools and tips. We get things done. We do the research. We listen to our community. So all of this really formed the mantra that employees lived by, even within Beyond Blue, in the initiatives that came to life. And this was the ultimate brand idea, which really functioned as the foundation as to all the initiatives that were developed by Beyond Blue and all the communications that went out as well. So it's all about blue skies. It's all about that feeling of empowerment and equipping people with the skills and knowledge that they need to make each day just a little better. So as you can see over here at Beyond Blue, this is what we stand for. We enable you to achieve your best possible mental health, live life optimistically, and make a valuable contribution, because together we can realize a bright future and a blue sky Australia. And just to give you a sense of how this comes to life, because all of this was internal thinking, right? So this is how it came to life for people in the form of communications. So we revamped the logo. This was the collateral in which it came to life. And then this was the digital app as well. So that's really the case of Beyond Blue and how they define positive change. Another example that I want to show, the final one today, is RACGP. So RACGP, for those who don't know, is Australia's largest medical college. It represents 90% of the general practice profession. They play a really important role in advocating for the role that GPs play in the wider community. Think of it as a university where every GP in Australia has to go through in order to become a GP, right? So they provide support, guidance, and training for their members from the time that they are a resident all the way to, they become senior GPs. So the challenge that they were really facing was that there was obviously a competition for membership, and they needed to really understand what's the value that they give their members, in this case, the GPs, doctors. This required really understanding, what's a day in the life of a GP and what really matters to people in this relationship. So what we did really is one-on-one contextual interviews, giving us an insight into what a day in the life of a GP looks like. So really understanding their motivations, their pain points. We spoke with people all over Australia, across different ages, degrees of engagement with the college. We also spoke with subject matter experts who gave us a really interesting perspective on how the health landscape is evolving. And after that discovery process, we conducted co-creation sessions with the RACGP team and worked out how we can craft a member value proposition framework. These ideas were then tested in the GP19 conference in Adelaide to identify the winning ones. So what we found was that when you're thinking about a doctor, when you're thinking about a GP, there were really 4 core drivers that led them to them becoming a GP. One, to be intellectually challenged every single day. So unlike a bone specialist or a brain specialist, you're dealing with a variety of issues and symptoms, and hence you're learning new things every day. You're having a holistic picture of a patient's health, their physical, their mental, their emotional, which kept things interesting for the GPs every day. And they were learning so much in that process. To provide continued care and follow-up. So by understanding their holistic lives, they can continue to build that enhanced relationship with them. And that's what they were looking for. And finally, to influence people's lives for a positive outcome. So this isn't just about, you have a problem and I'm going to help you understand what the problem is, but it's really helping people practice a healthier lifestyle to keep them out of the hospital. However, they experienced challenges day to day. There was a misalignment between the system and their core values. So GPs wanted to really spend a lot of time with their patients, but the current system made that difficult due to the 15-minute increment in terms of the appointments need to last only 15 minutes and cannot go longer, etc. So GPs really found that quite challenging, and they needed that practical ongoing support from their college to help them succeed, not just as a professional, but in their lifelong journey as a GP. So it was really going through that process of empathy and understanding the GPs. We went into their practices and watched them and saw how they led their lives, that we had a really good understanding of where they were coming from and why these things mattered to them. So after that process of discovery, we crafted this framework that I'm going to take you through, and a roadmap to really help RACGP align their communication experience and ongoing initiatives in the way that it mattered to the members. So we started off with the context statement. So this would be really useful when you're thinking about your own startup, right? So what job does the context statement do? So the context statement, when you're thinking about it, should really create a compelling sense of the problem in the world that we're united to solve. It should demonstrate the passion with which we approach our work, and it really functions as a guide for strategic decision making. How you might apply it, depending on your startup, is that it could be a standard paragraph or copy that's used in strategic documents, and it functions as a really helpful reminder for the people who work with you. For RACGP, the way we did this is just talking about how the healthcare system is at crossroads. These systematic changes requires that high quality healthcare system will need a human-centric approach and focus on prevention, most importantly, and GPs playing a really key role in that prevention, and how it's important to facilitate that holistic continuous care and supporting people to make the best health decisions. Purpose. So when you're thinking about your startup's purpose, so what job does the purpose do? It's essentially the why that unites us, that attracts the best talent and inspires our stakeholders, the people that we work for, the people that we interact with, to embrace change. How you apply it, it's essentially a mantra to embed into your organization. You could make it visible in terms of your key collaterals, the key touch points, in terms of the personality and how it comes to life. And it functions as a key filter for decision making and strategic planning when you're thinking about all the things that you want to do. How we defined it for RACGP was why. The why that they're here to do what they do is to champion better health for all Australians through excellence and comprehensive person-centered primary healthcare, because it's all about the holistic person. The member value proposition, which could also be the customer promise or the customer value proposition, depending on the kind of startup that you have. The job that it does is about, essentially, it's a commitment to our customers that underpins that relationship. So it gives your startup the foundation promise, which will help you elaborate. This is the promise, and this is what I'm giving my customers. It clarifies your role and tells people what really differentiates you from your competition, what you uniquely offer that your competition doesn't. How you might apply it is a standard paragraph of copy that can be used in collateral again, and it can really be broken up into key messages for promotional materials. How we defined it for RACGP is to advance the value of general practice in our community and support your well-being as a GP. So there are two layers here. So it's not just about supporting GP well-being, but they realize that there's a ripple effect on the community, and the fact that we need to enhance the importance of GPs so that people take good care of their health, and prevention is really important. And finally, there are the value pillars. So when you think about your customer promise as a startup, so what is the promise that that you're giving your customers? What are those key pillars of value? So really outlining in tangible terms the value that your customers will get out of that relationship, right? So how you might apply it is that these pillars function as a foundation to direct your initiatives. Just to give you an example, for RACGP, it was about professional excellence. So what are the tools and resources that we can give GPs to be able to help them stay on top of advanced healthcare systems and technology and what's changing, so that they can support the community and patients better? Financial strength, are there ways that we can help them set their own practice? And these were quite relevant for those GPs who wanted to set up their own practice and become practice owners. What sort of financial support can we give them? Shared experiences and connected community. Being a GP can be quite a lonely experience because you're only seeing patients day in and day out. So how can we provide a platform where GPs can connect with each other and learn from each other, and again, help the community in a better way? And individual well-being. GPs deal with a lot of people in the community who are suffering from emotional health. So that has a ripple effect on the GPs and how they feel. So how can they support their own individual well-being? And that really comes to life in this form of a member value proposition framework. So we have the context, the purpose, the member value proposition, and the value pillars. So it's these value pillars that essentially guide the initiatives that, that will come to life in the form of either collateral or the communications that you ultimately have. So what positive change means really, like I said, varies for each brand. So for Beyond Blue, positive change was to provide people with the tools and support they need to manage their mental health where they live, work, and learn. For RACGP, it was to advance the value of general practice in our community and support your well-being as a GP. So it's really asking yourself what positive change means for your brand, and how that might come to life. So really, in conclusion, these are the questions you need to be asking yourself. So consider this when making your startup a force for positive change, right? So the context, what's the world that you're operating in? What's the problem that you're seeking to solve? So really thinking about the social context, and what's the job that you're here to do. And then thinking about your purpose. So what's your emotional reason for being? Why do you do what you do? Why does your startup exist beyond just profit? So really uncovering that using the cultural energies exercise, as well as the golden circles exercise, to understand what are the motivational energies that really get you out of bed every day for your startup. The impact, what sort of impact do you want to have in the community? The who, so who do you want to impact? Is it an individual? Is it the larger community? Having a really good sense of the people that you're designing for. Since we're on the topic of people who we're designing for, really important to practice empathy. So how can you better empathize with them to understand their motivations, pain points, and goals? Your offering, so how can you ensure your offering is designed with their needs in mind? So think about other opportunities for co-creation. We have another really good example, which I wasn't sure that I had time for, so I pushed that aside. But essentially, we created an internet portal for Barker College, where Barker College realized that parents were struggling with identifying, what their students were doing in the college, and they found the internet portal really confusing and not useful at all. So what we helped them do is develop a more user intuitive interface, and we went through the process of empathy to really design that platform in partnership with Barker College staff and the customers in a co-creation atmosphere. So really trying and understanding, are there ways to co-create with your customers, the people you're designing for, and then continuing to make it iterative. So how can you iterate alongside your customers to ensure that your offering continues to meet their needs, not just now, but into the future? Because this is really an ever-changing process, depending on the startup that you have. It's really important that you prototype and test quite often to make sure that you don't end up spending a lot of time and money and resources on something that doesn't meet a real core human need. So really important that you make it iterative as well. So I'm just going to pause over there and just see if anybody had any questions. Okay, so we have a question here. With the golden circles, do you start with the what, the outer circle, or why, the inner circle? And what have you found helpful while doing this exercise? So what we've personally found really helpful with clients is to, it really helps to start with the what, the outer circle, because it is quite intuitive to just put it out there and say, this is what we're designing, this is the nature of our offering, and this is how we do it. Because in order to get to the why, the inner circle, we like to do what we call the toddler test. So keep asking why 5 times. Some of you would have heard about the five whys. So ask why 5 times so that you get to a really good why, to get to the crux and the motivation as to why you do what you do. So yes, starting off with the what. So what is it that that you're designing, what you're offering, moving on to the how you do it, and then that would uncover your why. And again, using the cultural energies exercise, thinking about what motivates you as an organization is a really good one as well. Another question that we have here is, do the framework elements get shared or used externally or only internally? So to be honest, the framework elements are internal because it is really meant to have a common understanding for people within the organization about the context that they're operating in, the promise that we're making to customers, the brand mantra that we live by, so that your initiatives and what customers see are grounded by that feeling. So no, they don't really get shared. We share it with our clients when we work with them to develop the framework, because it's obviously important for our clients, being the organization, to have a really common foundation. But it does not get shared externally to customers, that the people we're designing for. How do startups, another question we have is, how do startups plug into or engage the structure from the get-go? So, I mean, it depends on the journey that you're in right now, what phase of the journey that you're in your startup. So in order to really engage into the structure, it's really starting with that very first, I might actually go back to that slide there with the framework. So this is RACGP right now, but a good place to start is really getting an understanding of the context that you're operating in, right? So what's the world that you're operating in? Trying to understand the cultural context as to the people that you're designing for. Where are they coming from? What are their motivations and goals? What are your competitors doing? And what is that gap that you're looking to fill in the market? What's that problem that you're looking to solve? So it really starts with getting a really good understanding of that context, which will then ultimately guide your purpose. And your purpose, obviously, the exercises that fall into that is the Golden Circles exercise, the cultural energies exercise, and it's really helpful to do that with people in your team so that you have a common understanding of what really motivates you as an organization, because it's when we have this very solid foundation and we're all motivated by the same thing and we understand what we're motivated by, that we can be quite consistent in the communications that we have and the initiatives that ultimately our customers end up seeing. Let me see if there are any other questions there. Yeah, so that's pretty much all we have here. So thank you once again for taking the time. Again, if you have any follow-up questions, my name is Lavanya, and I'm available at my email address there. Find me on LinkedIn if you like. And thank you so much for listening. Have a good day.